This episode is sponsored by Kim Smiley Jewelry, which you can discover at kimsmiley.com. It's not just jewelry, it's a badge of honor. Speaker, writer, and spiritual advisor Sherry Gallant is one of the world's most respected and renowned figures in mediumship, self-help, and connections to the spiritual world. Sherry is a frequent guest expert on podcasts, television, and radio. Please join me in welcoming Sherry to Empathy Empire. Sherry, I am so excited. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Kim. I'm happy to be here.
So you weren't born a medium. You experienced a very scary accident, and that propelled you in a spiritual direction. You always knew you were intuitive, but you had something in your life that happened that kind of took you on a path that you probably never imagined you would take.
Exactly. Well, I feel like, I don't know if I wasn't born with it. I feel it's kind of hard because I feel like I had with my accident a spiritual reawakening. Because when you're young and as children, like children are very intuitive, but as we get older and as we come into contact with adults and stuff, we get influenced by the world, right? That we live in. And it kind of fades. And as you get older, you don't want people to think you're weird or you're strange or anything like that. So you kind of set it aside. What happened with me with my car accident, things started to happen to me afterwards where I don't know if you know it, but I literally ended up in a graveyard for my accident. And I was literally only feet away from a grave site of my friend who passed away, who I named my son after. And my son was born like 9, 10 months after his passing. So that's how it worked. That's how I feel. And things started happening, but it was really strange back then. It's not as open and it's not so taboo anymore as it was back then. So it was hard for me to come out of the closet, so to speak, to bring it to light. And it was really scary. It was
So let me take you back to that
okay.
day in March, which was, I think the year was 2002.
Mhm,
You were going to drop your son off at school.
mhm,
It was a sunny day. Take me
mhm.
back to it.
Okay, so I had dropped my son off at school and I had met my husband for breakfast and he ended up going his way. I ended up going my way, but it was a Friday and I had figured like, I thought, oh my gosh, I have a baby shower on Sunday and I needed to buy a gift. So I was kind of thinking, I was like, okay, where's the closest plaza, closest mall? So I ended up heading up a highway and for weeks before that, I felt uncomfortable driving. I even told my sister-in-law, I feel like I just feel like something's going to happen. It ended up, sure enough, I come over a hill and I had saw a car on a side street. And I was thinking to myself, I hope he's not, I was going south and I was thinking he's pulling out and I can see he wants to go south, but there's a transport truck coming north. So he's got to pull out to beat this transport truck. And I'm like, there's no way he's going to do that. Sure enough, he pulls out to try to beat the transport truck, but a car come up the side, the blind spot, and T-boned him. And slowly, it all happened so fast, but it was like slow motion. And it was like, here he comes. He's coming into my driver's door. He's almost here. And then I'm pretty much blacked out. Then what happened was when I came through, I remember seeing another car and I was more scared. I was like, somebody came to the window and they're like, Miss, help is on its way. And I was like, how's the man in the car? Because I could see the man in the car. And as I looked over, so the fire department showed up, they were in the back seat, and I looked over and I saw the grave site. And it was just, and I always said it felt like somebody took me out of my car and put me back in when it was over. And so I went through my injuries, I went through all these things. And about a year later, I was like, I need to go back to the gravesite. I need to go and say thank you. And it was rainy, it was cold, so I grabbed artificial flowers because I knew they wouldn't last. So I get to the graveyard, it was pouring raining. And as I pulled up, I was like, oh, it's raining. I swear to God, Kim, the sun came out from my car to that grave site. It was raining all around except from there. I have goosebumps from my car to there. And I got out and I put the flowers down and I says, I know that was you, and thank you. Like I feel he was there with me, and he it yeah, and just from there, things just started happening. And I had somebody once say to me, I would do for friends and family and that. And then somebody was like, you need to really come out with this. You need to like, you can help so many people. And I was just, it was scary. It was very scary. Finally, I did. And honestly, it's the best thing I ever did. I'm not here to convince anybody. I'm here to provide compassion. I'm here to provide love, answers, closure. I'm here to be the bridge between two worlds, and I'm here to be the conduit. We all have free will, and I'm open, anybody who's open to receiving. And that's how it is. I trust and believe in I respect everybody's beliefs. And I just know now it's not so taboo anymore. And there's just more out there. I could tell you something that just happened yesterday. Like I could just, so
Could I just tell you something though? Just
yes,
that's just sort of like an uncanny coincidence.
yes,
So we had this interview scheduled for a few weeks now.
okay,
And on Sunday, I was in the car with my husband and we were going to pick up my kids.
okay.
And we were driving up Eglinton and we almost got T-boned in a horrific car accident where they didn't see us and they were coming from a side street and there was another car that was obscuring their vision. And I was literally face to face with the other car. And it was terrifying. And my husband had the reflexes to swerve out of the way. And luckily, no one was coming in the other direction, or we would have had a head on collision. And my reaction was very shocking to myself. Like I started crying uncontrollably. I couldn't stop crying. And I don't generally do that. I'm very easy to tears, but I don't usually cry uncontrollably for 15 minutes.
Right.
And it was just this flood of tears and I couldn't speak. I was just so overcome with emotion, and it wasn't fear. It was just emotion, and it was a sense almost of gratitude. And then when I was driving here today and I was listening to your story on another podcast and I was hearing about your car accident, I was like, that is crazy. Like the week I'm interviewing Sherry Gallant, I have this experience where I almost get in this horrible car accident. And it was just, I felt like just shivers down my spine as I was coming here today to interview you, just because I don't believe in coincidences.
Right. No, I don't believe in coincidences at all. Yesterday, I was just going to tell you, if you don't mind, I had a session booked with somebody yesterday. And the night before, around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, the fire alarms were going off in my house. But it was just like a glitch. There was no fire, there was no nothing, but it was just on for a couple seconds, off, and then another for like 10, 15 seconds. And we couldn't even figure out which one it was. And the weird thing about it is it affects all of them, but it was just one. And so everybody, is up because of this alarm, go to sleep, didn't have a good sleep. I get up, my assistant's telling me, I haven't heard from your 1 o'clock yet. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess maybe I have the afternoon off. And then all of a sudden she gets an email at 1 o'clock and says like, am I still scheduled for this appointment? And my assistant's like, well, I sent you this email. Doesn't she go looking for the email? The email is, she can't find the email. It just poof, disappeared into the universe. So around 1:15, I'm like, you know what? Okay, she doesn't mind the way I look, whatever, I'll do it. I get on there, we go through the whole session, and it ended up her husband that came through was a firefighter. And she was like, he was such a jokester. And I had told her I was up all night. And she said, she says, when you told me that right away, I said, that's him. And she said that my whole day, it's like he's been playing tricks on me. And sometimes I get within like a few days before, it's like, wow, like, why am I feeling this? Maybe it's for somebody. And then all of a sudden, boom. And then I tell my son, and he's just like, Mom, you got to tell those people that they got to wait in line. Like, we don't want them hanging around here, right? But it's just, and then it was an amazing session. And it was just like some of the things that really happened. I lost my mom, and this, I didn't hear from her for years, a couple years anyhow. And I was just like, like, why aren't you coming to me? Why aren't you? But I have siblings, and they're all going through their own thing. And she knows I'm okay. She knows I'm independent. I have a great husband. I have a great family. So she knows she doesn't have to worry about me. And she's always said that when she was here, I don't have to worry about you. So I knew she was off. And then I was going through some things. And then when she had passed, we were building this home, and we had rented a house close by that we could be close. And then what happened was she had passed, and I had to go to the airport to pick up my son that was flying in for her service. I scheduled her celebration of life with these doves for her grandchildren to let go and that. And then what happened was I spoke to this man, got it all figured out. I'm in the car, I'm driving. I have to pass my house under construction to go to the airport. And as I'm driving, I'm like, Mom, I hope you like the doves. And I'm talking, and you're never going to see my new home, and just, grief, right? As I'm driving, I see a minivan in front of me, and it pulls over in front of my house under construction. As I pulled up behind it, I looked at the license plate, and it spelled TWODOVES, two doves. Okay. And it was, she's like, I know about the doves. I know your house. So that was 13 years ago. Couple weeks back, I was driving into town, and I'm driving along the road, and I actually put it on my Instagram, a video. And I'm thinking of my mom, and she always liked that song by Bob Seger, Old Time Rock and Roll. And so that come on the radio, I start thinking about her, and sure enough, I pull up to the light, and there's a minivan in front of me that says two doves. That's 13 years later. I got that one on video. 13 years ago, I didn't. So I know, and I was, I had a family member going through some things, and I knew I was stressed, and everything's good now. So it's like, they're there. People get freaked out, or they get scared. They wouldn't hurt you when they were here. Why would they hurt you from over there? Right?
Right. So one of the questions that I've thought of for a while is, do we all have this ability inside of us to intuit the other side, or are some people born with this gift?
I think we all have the ability. I think we all have it. I just feel that some people fear, and they kind of put it in the background, or they think it's coincidence, or just not as open. There has to be something that really hits home. That's why I call it a spiritual reawakening. There is no way certain things could happen. And when I do workshops, and I teach beginners and intermediate and advanced, but people, it's more, they have to let go of ego. You have to let go of, it's just, don't think too much. I always say it just comes, like it just comes when you have to sit there and think, and think about, is it your own subconscious? Is it your own thinking? Is it your own, like, is this something that would come to you? It's like, no, I had a woman, and I kept seeing a word that's saying, I kept hearing token up, token up. And I was like, what is token up? I know now, because she told me that's written on her son's gravestone. Okay. Like, how much more validation can you? And I've met people from I do sessions all over the world, like all over the world. They're very private, they're very confidential. I record them, I send them, they have 3 to 5 days to download them. It gets deleted. It's their journey, right? And everybody's journey, it's like you with your empathy, and I really want to say to you, like, congratulations on your podcast and all that, because in today's world, we need it. We really need it. And I feel the world is changing with beliefs. The world is changing. Like I said, it's not so taboo anymore. And I don't consider myself special. I'm just like, my husband and my son tell me, they're like, but you have this gift, you're rare. And I'm like, no, I'm just Sherry. Like it's not rare. It's like, this is what happens. And I love what I do. And I would, I'm so happy that because I hid it from them also. I
You hid it from them because of the taboo at the time, and you were nervous what people were going to think of you.
Yeah,
Are
so my
they gonna think
husband
I'm
has his
crazy?
own business. My
Right.
son was heading off to university.
Mhm.
It was just, I didn't want, your mom's this, you know how
Right.
kids can be mean sometimes as
Of course.
well, right? And fine, I just said I was going to a yoga class, or I had found a group. But I would say I'm going to yoga class, I'm going to meditation, and finally I just came out with them and told them. And I wish I would have did it sooner because the they looked at me and they said, Mom, if you're happy, we're happy. And that's the best answer I could have had. And it's just, I have three brothers, and um, they experience their own thing. My one brother, so you figure out with you by signs. Like I know doves are signs from my mom. Um, and I like personalized license plates that 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 I see. You figure out repetitive, whether it's coins, and it could be dimes, it could be pennies, it could be wherever you're from, it could be quarters, whatever's repetitive. But usually when they show money means value, and it's like if you're feeling down about yourself, you're being told like you're valued, and don't forget your value. And sometimes look at the year on it, because the year on it could be significant. It could be the year of their passing to let you know who it is. It could be a special year, maybe somebody was born, or there's always different animals. It could be songs, it could be things falling over. I had a bulb on my Christmas tree fall out of nowhere. And I have like 12-foot ceilings. So I have a big Christmas tree with a lot of bulbs. One bulb, it ended up to be the one with my mom's picture. And like, how do you just, they try to get your attention.
That's very interesting. Yes. You have to be open. You have to
You
be
have to
open
be
to
open.
Yes.
And
Right.
what is there to lose?
Right.
What is there to lose? And I'm finding now I have just as many men reaching out as women.
Okay.
Women always seem to be more intuitive, and men break down more than women break down, um, because they have this masculine that they're supposed to put out there, and it's just the things that are. I've gotten letters from people that I haven't even done a session with, that were a family member or somebody in the audience. I do events, and it's not just about the person in front of me. It's a ripple effect. It affects the people around them. I had a one person, if you don't mind me getting, I told you I have the gift to gab. I'm sorry. But it's also interesting because I'm so interested too, because it's like, wow, I have wow moments, right? And it's just, how can I not? And I had somebody send me an email was forwarded to me, and it was a man, and he had said, he says, I was at your show in Barrie, and he says, I've never, believed or experienced anything like this before. He says, I did not receive a reading. He says, but what I witnessed and what I saw, he says, I don't want my family to go through what I saw certain families going through. He says, I just want you to know that I'm admitting myself into rehab. Okay, so it was somebody must have had a child who passed from an overdose, and then what happened was he saw the family. Like it's a ripple effect. I have daughters and sons that send me emails saying thank you. Like my dad or my mom is just a total different person. Like they're loving life again. They're being a mother again. I'm gonna tell you, I had another one. I did a show out, I think it was in Oshawa, and a woman came through for her daughter in the audience. And it's so clear because the daughter ended up doing some workshops afterwards. So she's in my mind, and she was at home, and she wrote me an email afterwards. But what had happened that day was she was really down and she was very, very depressed, and she had lost her mom. Her friend called her and said, I have an extra ticket for this show. I'm picking you up. So and so can't make it. The show starts in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. I'm picking you up. Picks her up, brings her to the show. Doesn't her mom come through? Do you know, she told me that she was thinking about taking her own life that night. And then all of a sudden, this extra ticket comes up and she shows at the show, and her whole life has changed. And she's back out there, and it's, I have no words sometimes.
Transformational.
Yeah. And I always say it helps me as well. I've had so many tragedies in my life. And people say, oh, things happen for a reason. I don't like to say to somebody who lost their child, sorry, things happen for a reason. You don't say that. And that's another thing. I call it mediumship etiquette. And that's one thing I put in. When you're speaking to somebody who's grieving, you're walking on eggshells. Okay. That's a mother. She knows how her child passed away. You don't need to give gory details. Right. So for me, it's one day I'm going to write a book. I've never written, I don't know how, I don't know, but one day I want to, and it's just going to be like, just brings back, I can't even put into words how it makes me feel. There's no words. Why me? I don't believe it's just me. I believe everybody has it, and there's certain things, like you said, like with your car accident, your almost car accident. Like, how could that be? Like, I'm lost for words sometimes, and that's very rare.
One of my friends, her name is Petey Wolfond. I don't know if you know Petey. She's a local artist in Toronto. And one of the things we talk about a lot, because we tend to wake up in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
So she typically wakes up at 4 and I typically wake up at 3.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've read is that the veil between our world and the afterworld is thinner at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're both very open to this.
Yep.
You and I have been talking for years.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the questions that has always sort of been in my mind is the inspiration that I'm getting and that P is getting, and she calls it from angels.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use that word, but I feel sometimes like I am getting inspiration, and ideas or poems or concepts can just be formulated for me. It's like I didn't think of them. I'm just kind of like a vessel that things are coming through.
So I would call that channeling.
Right. And who is it that we would be channeling?
It could be a loved one on the other side. It could be, they say, spirit animals, we have, your angels, or so grandparents, great grandparents, we all have guardian angels, whether you call it guardian angels or there's just different names. I don't get too far into the whole spirit animal and all that. What I do for me is overwhelming enough but they're giving you it for a reason, because I think with you, and with your friend who's an artist, you share things with the world, and they're using your voice or her art to get it out to the world. I don't know if she does art. Is she a painter?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if she uses some of that. Somebody's saying to her, hey, you need to put whatever that is into a painting. Um, it's getting it out to the world, and they're using you as a conduit. They're using you as a bridge, because now you have this voice and you have this platform, and it can get stronger. But you can also say to them as well, like, I don't have them around me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I always say I have this deal with them. I like to go out with friends. I like to go out for dinner. I like to dance. I like to have fun. I don't have this witch hat with a big wart on my nose. I'm a normal person who likes to shop and all that stuff, go for pedicures. And it's like, you give me that time to myself, and I will always be there to provide for you, to be that vessel, that conduit. Other than that, and you can just say to them, you're interrupting my sleep. You have to really say, you're interrupting my sleep. That's it. You need to go, and come back another time. They listen to you, but you have to really put your foot down.
I
It's
like it actually. I think I love it when it happens, and I think it's
okay
a
if you
huge gift.
love it, but if
Yeah,
you're
I
out and about, and
right.
with me, it's like sometimes people will say when you're in a grocery store and that, I would never ever interrupt somebody's space.
Right.
That's just, to me, is another thing with mediumship etiquette. You don't do that to people. They have to be open and they have to be willing. You don't just walk up to somebody and say, "Oh, do you have?" That's just, you're not. I don't know. That's all TV stuff, right?
Yes, yes. And which brings me to the question about showmanship, because the way that people perceive mediumship is
Mhm.
often with a lot of esotericism and showmanship. You're different. You present very differently. I find you present with empathy.
So much. I wish my husband always says, he says, I worry that if something happens to me, you're going to bring all those people home with you. Because I feel for them. When I'm hugging them, when I'm holding their hands, that's empathy as well. Just to give somebody a tap on the shoulder or touch like to hug and I've I've experienced mostly every single thing out there. So many tragedies, and I feel that I can really relate to them. I take them all as if they're my family. And we are in some way or another, and I just want to make them feel good. It's not about, and I'll say to somebody too, and I get this a lot. They're like, the one thing I like about you is because people okay, they want to grab on. And I'm saying, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm feeling it's not for you, because I know there's somebody who really needs that message. I'm not just going to say yes, and he loves you, and carry on. That's not what it's about. It's not about ratings. It's not about, I know, TV needs ratings and things like that. And another thing, I did have a couple really great opportunities with TV. I had to go to LA a couple times, and it just, my thinking and their thinking didn't work out. I'm not a scripted person, as you
Right.
can tell. I just go in, I never know what's going to happen. I don't know. I don't want them to make me somebody that I'm not, because you like me, and the people come to see me for me right now. Why would you want to change that?
Right. You and I had an experience. I don't know if you realize that I was a part of it, but a while back, I think it was a few years ago, there was this new platform called Clubhouse. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So you were hosting a room, and my friend Camille was in it, and another friend named Melissa, who goes by Missy. And do you remember this? Am I ringing a
Okay,
bell for you?
I know Camille Dan quite well. Yes.
And there was just this incredible um, opening of the veil that happened while we were in this clubhouse
Mhm,
chat. And Missy, her son, died
mhm.
prematurely. And as you know, Camille, Aaron had
Yes.
a son that passed away, Aaron, and she's written books about it. And Missy has even written a chapter in one of Camille's
I wrote
books.
a
You wrote
chapter as
a
well.
chapter,
Yeah.
Gathering at the Doorway.
Yes.
So it was this incredible experience. So I've got to witness you
Okay.
in action, and it's almost like you become embodied.
Yeah.
Describe
I
it for me.
I love it. Um, it's when I'm doing a session or I'm doing a 2-hour event, it goes like that. I feel like I'm in my own zone. And even my family, my friends are like, you're just somewhere else. And people always say, like, how do you stand in front of 400 or 500 people like that? And I'm like, but I don't see them. I don't see them. When I'm hugging somebody, it's like I'm there. I'm there for a reason. I'm not there to, and I love that feeling because I feel light. I feel like I'm healing, help giving them some healing, but I'm also healing a part of myself as well. Because regardless, we learn something from everybody's story. Nobody knows what people have gone through in life. And I feel this amazing, just this amazing feeling. And I can't even describe it. And it's just so, it's like I'm here, but I'm not here.
Are all of the different interactions that you have, are they all energizing? It sounds like you derive a lot of energy from these interactions, but sometimes people in this world didn't have good energies. You know,
Mhm.
they were in pain and they were suffering,
Mhm.
and they left the world with that suffering and with that pain. So I'm just wondering, when you have interactions, if
Mhm.
the interaction is with someone who left the world in a state of suffering,
Mhm.
are those interactions for you more depleting, or does it not matter because they're in a sort of a soul state?
They're in a soul state. All that pain and that is gone away. Um, but they'll show me things. They'll show me things. I usually feel that when they come through, they're the way they felt their best when they were here. A lot of times, for instance, if somebody comes through dancing, it's because they had their, so I had another one that's come through dance. I'm supposed to tell you he's dancing again. Well, this woman's dad had both his legs amputated and dancing was his favorite thing. So that's how it shows me. A lot of times if they had an oxygen tank, or I'll see like a tube, but first, but second, I don't see with my eyes. I don't hear with my ears. It's like an old flash movie. It's
Yes.
like all of a sudden it's there. I call it my personal dictionary, and my personal dictionary is filled with everybody I've met in life, everything I've ever learned, where I've been, and spirit uses that for me to relay messages to them. For example, and it's not for me to understand because I can't sit there and say, I remember one time the spirit was showing me a pot of barley soup. And I was like, I just kept seeing barley soup. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. It's not for me to make sense out of. The woman sitting in front of me told me her husband's name was Bartley, but I would never get Bartley. I had another time I kept seeing my son Michael. So I said to the woman, I feel like a young energy. And she says, yes. And I said, I'm seeing my son. She says, yes, she had a son. So I go through, it was great. But at the end, I'm like, I got to ask you, because I keep seeing my son. Is Michael significant? She rolled up her sleeve and had a memory of Mikey. tattooed on her arm. So that's how it works for me, right? And everybody I meet, the religions I learn, like I'm learning from you. Everything we're talking about is going into my personal dictionary. So I'm constantly learning, and it just makes me, my husband and my son are like, you seem to be getting stronger. I don't think it's a matter of stronger. I think it's a matter of my dictionary's getting bigger. I'm understanding more. And I've come to it to where, because my husband will even say, sometimes like in the audience, you'll be like, really? Like, wow. And he's like, that doesn't make you confident. I go, no, it makes me, because sometimes it's like, wow, what the hell just happened, right? Like it's because it's mind blowing. I've been to theaters where afterwards those have like the boards and everything and the lights flashing and power outages and it's just the energy. And when we talk about energy, so when people ask me like when you feel energy, have you like you're an empath, 1,000%. Are you a water baby?
I'm a Libra.
You're a Libra. Okay. So with 100% you're an empath though. When you are like the energy that you feel, like I always say, empaths really have to protect your own little space. And when I say the most important space is when you put your arms straight out and you completely go around. This is your private little space. You can't have like, you're the type of person that can walk into a room and instantly feel the Debbie Downer. Like, it's like, oh, oh God, that energy. You could just feel it. Or if you see like, that's why you need to protect yourself. And I always say to people, Black Obsidian. I know you know so much about stones because I think I got a couple bracelets off of you for some friends' birthdays back a couple years back. So it's really, really great. But it's also just like with me, it's great to have this and be able to do it. But you have to really learn to protect yourself. And sometimes we have to practice what we preach as well.
Yes.
Because I'll just go, sometimes I'll be doing a session and I want to go to bed. Like a lot of times, most of the time after an event, I'm on the couch for 2 or 3 days. Like I'm just exhausted. I get aches, I get pains, and sometimes I feel really good. Like I could go do a marathon. It just depends on the energy and who's coming through. I had and another thing I feel I would never center somebody out. I would never ever, this is another thing like about shows and TV and stuff. And it's like I had a woman, I did a show down at Exhibition Grounds, that Queen Elizabeth Theater a few years ago. And this man came through and I just felt something about him, right? And I kept seeing, so anyhow, ended up connecting with this woman in the audience. And I ended up putting my hand over the microphone and whispered to her ear because he had done some things to her as a child, and I wasn't going to broadcast it. She knew exactly what I was talking about, and he was there to apologize to her. Life-changing. But there was people rolling their eyes in the audience because they want to hear that, but I can't do that. I can't do that, right?
Yes.
So then what happened was he had said, so I bent down another time and I grabbed her hands and I says, you're going through something. And he told me that his way of making up for it is he's going to help you get through this. And I saw the pink ribbon. It ended up that she had breast cancer. Well, today she is breast cancer free. So when this person who did these things to her came through, but there's two things here. One is mean people that come through are really, and I feel if they're sincere. If they're not sincere, I'm not even gonna, like, you're not even welcomed, right? I don't feel it. I don't believe in evil. I've never had somebody evil. And I think that's why I truly believe that doesn't matter when we pass over and we see our life review and everything, I think it changes you. And listen, there's the odd lemon as well. Like, there's a car that comes off the assembly line that could break down. So there's always fuses loose in some people, right? But that changed her life. But it didn't just change her life, Kim. It changed her children's, her husband's, her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren, her great-great-grandchildren, her friends. It's going a ripple effect throughout the whole world.
So
You don't
Sherry,
understand
that's so interesting because I had a conversation last week and it's actually coming out tomorrow.
it.
Podcast with a friend of mine from graduate school who is a psychologist and who then was initiated as a Korean shaman. And
Wow.
she focuses on ancestral trauma.
Mhm.
And she was saying that when we don't deal with our ancestral trauma, it comes back for generation and generation and generation because it actually becomes a part of our DNA.
Yes.
So one of the things I'm hearing from you that I didn't think about prior to this interview is that you can heal people's ancestral trauma by creating closure,
Yes.
by getting an apology for the person who hurt you.
Yes.
And that is an extraordinary intergenerational form of healing.
Yes. For the past and the future.
Yes. Yes. That's why I think transformational and transcendent are the words that come to mind when I think about the work that you do. One of the things that I've thought about a lot is, I don't know if you remember this case, but I posted about it on the Empathy Effect. It was about a boy named Jesse Galganov, who was from Montreal, and he went on a backpacking trip to Peru. I think he was 23 years old, and he was taking a gap year between finishing his undergrad and going to medical school. And he went missing a few days after he left for this trip in Peru. And I was in touch with his family, and I became, for lack of a better word, obsessed with this case. I had just had a baby. I saw pictures of Jesse as a baby, and I started dreaming about Jesse. And it became almost too much for me. I was in touch with his dad. His dad reached out to me because I had a lot of followers through the Empathy Effect on Facebook in Peru. And he asked me to post about him just on the off chance that someone would read the post and see him. What about people coming to you with unsolved cases, like whether it's an unsolved murder or a lost person? Is that something that happens in your work?
Oh, yeah. I've spoken to families of world-known murders. I was asked a few years ago if I would be interested in unsolved for RCMP, and I didn't even think about it. I said no. And the only reason, it's a personal thing. I can't go that deep. It's just like I've had people ask me if I could go dark with the Holocaust for them. Like deep, deep, deep. I can't. For my own health, my own mental health, I can't. The families that I speak with, that have lost parents, tragedies and like unsolved and children, and I feel like a lot of times they don't want to go into detail. They just want to know that everything's okay. They just want to know. It's a scary thing. It's scary for me. It's really scary for me. Um, let me just think without going into too deep. Certain things I'll put out there, right? But what they do with it, like I said, I send them the recording and it's up to them. I'm there to provide comfort and healing, and I don't want, I don't want to be this, like all of a sudden this person on a pedestal. I just want to be myself. And I know it's helping people. But it's
Yes, but
scary for me.
it's definitely scary, and I've experienced it myself because I started having visions and dreams about Jesse
Yep.
Galganov, and but I'm just wondering, do people come to you for that closure? And is that something that you will sort of like put a boundary up because you don't want to have that kind of energy or interaction? So it doesn't come to you because
Yes.
you're protecting yourself?
Yeah, I do set boundaries. If I feel, I will be honest and just like I can't, like I really can't go down this road. They understand. They completely understand. It opens wounds for me, and I know it's healing and that, but and it helps me as well, but it can be very it's scary. Maybe one day I'll be more, to it. But I do talk to them. I do help them. A lot of times they're like, listen, I don't want to know what happened or what, or, and that's it. But to give little things about certain things and then let them just take it to where they want to take it. So maybe I'm helping them because I know I've been told you've helped me more than you even know,
Right, right.
right?
Sherry, you have trained as a grief coach. You've trained as an acupuncturist. You are trained in Chinese medicine, although I know you're retired from that. You're trained as a reflexologist.
Aromatherapist,
Pardon me?
aromatherapist.
Aromatherapist. Okay, I know you're very knowledgeable about the symbolism of gems. How did you train as a medium? You say that you give classes, and did you train as a medium or did you just sort of learn on the job?
So, when you always like growing up, so I left home at a very young age. My mom was a single mom. We lived in housing. She was on social services. I left home at 14, 14, almost 15 years old. And I ended up living in a tack room in the backstretch of a racetrack. And people would always say, you were homeless. And, to me, it's like you can make anywhere home. So I didn't ever feel like I was homeless. And I worked at the racetrack, and then I snuck in the back of a straw trailer going to Florida one time, and I hid behind the bales of straw, and I went to Florida for a few months, and then I come back, and I remember, and you might remember this. One of the owner, I said to him, he had a farm in Kentucky, and I'm like, I really want to be a jockey. Can you please send me to? And he's like, I'm gonna do you a favor, and you are not, this world is not for you. I'm telling you right now, you have to go. And I was so angry with him, but I ended up leaving and then, going back to school and stuff like that. And I worked for Nob Hill Farms Racing Stables. His name was Steve Stavros. And that was when I was 14 years old. So I'm talking 40 years ago. Um, and I remember from there, I always wanted to help people. And I have a drawing to horses. I always say horses grounded me, and horses, I don't want to say saved my life, but horses were a part of my healing. And then I knew I wanted to help people. And I was always like, my husband used to say, man, you'd be doing great if you had a career in going back to school. Like if you got paid, right? Because I always was learning. I love learning and I still love to learn. But I wanted to learn more. Like, so everything I've learned has brought me to where I am today. So when I came after the car accident, I was like, I need to like, what do I do here? Like, who do I reach out to? Like, and I started to do some research, and I found this group, and it was a psychic development. And I was like, maybe that's what I need. So I went And at the end of the session, the lady came to me and she's like, "Oh, this is the wrong class for you. Like you're a medium." I'm like, "What?" And they're like, and I was just like, "Okay." So I ended up going, and then from there, and then I was around like-minded people. Um, but then, like I said, ethics and stuff. And if somebody said to me right now, "You're so busy, can you refer somebody to me?" I don't have somebody. I don't, and I know there's going to be a lot of my students in that listening to this because I'll put it out there to the world. And I don't mean it disrespectfully. Just we're always learning until I can really sit there and put my name on you and like, no, because I even consider myself learning. I'm learning every single day, right?
Yes.
I just don't want to be like I said, I take it all so personal, every single person that I speak to. And I just want them to be
Ready.
to be ready, to be
Yes.
ready. So from there, I was like, you know what, maybe I'll do like a beginners. And it's the same. It's just like I have like modules and that, and just like right from beginners, from like the clairs, like all that, like, because there's different. I'm very clairvoyant. There's people that I'm clairvoyant, I'm clairaudient. So I always call it the clair. There's clair senses when you smell, and I have that. I'm getting a little bit of everything now, right? But we go through the clairs, we go through like all that, and it's amazing sometimes. Like it's just like amazing. But then there's times where people get overly excited and they're like, and his guts were open, and I'm just, whoa, like that's people get excited. They just want to, but this is where you have to learn when you're sitting in front of somebody who is grieving the loss of somebody who passed very tragically. And that I feel like smells, like, if somebody smoked, for example, if somebody smoked, um, and not too many people smoke anymore. Nobody smokes in their home like they used to. But if you're at home and then all of a sudden it's like you smell cigar smoke, or you smell a cigarette smoke, or a certain talc powder, or um, I feel like, it's something. Think about what's going on with you, because it's like somebody saying, maybe it's your dad and he was a heavy smoker, or letting you know that they're there. There's so many, there's everybody's different. Maybe it was something that they cooked, or something that they baked, or a certain perfume. And I remember one time telling somebody, I saw the green bottle. I said, this old perfume. And I said, and I told her this cologne, it ends up to be he wore polo every day of his life. And I don't even know if polo even exists anymore, but it's just like certain things, right? Smells, when you feel like somebody's there, brushed up against you, when you dream visits. So dream visits, people say, well, how do you know if it's real? You just know. You just know. You're not, it's not your it's like you just know, you don't forget about it. It's like you wake up and it's like, oh my gosh, like this is right. It's, sometimes you're like, I got to remember. And I tell people, keep a journal beside your bed. When you dream, just write like one word down. And also, Kim, I tell people to try and connect, find a good meditation tape, go into a meditation. And I said, put your phone on record. Just put your phone on record and talk to it. Whatever's coming, whatever's coming. You will be surprised what is on that when you listen back. There's so many ways for you to practice. There's so many ways for you to connect. I really believe it's a matter of confidence.
Yes. That's interesting. Confidence. Okay. Sherry, speaking of dreams,
Mm-hmm,
when my daughter was 6 months old,
mm-hmm.
I was sleeping in the room beside her because she was feeding at night.
Yeah.
And I woke up from a dream. It was a very, I woke up like out of breath. Like
Mm-hmm,
it was a dream where I was going towards a precipice and
Mm-hmm.
I was about to go off. And, everyone has this experience like you don't die in your dreams, you
Mm-hmm.
wake up before you're about
Mm-hmm.
to fall off a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was I woke up gasping.
Mm-hmm.
And at the exact same moment, my daughter started crying. Like she was in the dream with me. It was the most bizarre experience. And it kind of like, I felt it was a very spiritual experience, but I think people have these experiences
Mm-hmm.
that are mystical and that are spiritual and they fluff them off. They're scared of them and they don't know what to do with them. For me, I like to sort of dive into these things. I don't think everyone's like me, but I think that for me, I am often left with almost a sense that I don't have resolution to a lot of things that happen.
Right.
So what would you say to someone who is having experiences like that? What are we supposed to do when those kinds of things happen?
Well, I feel like those type of experiences, what I have experienced, there's meaning behind them. It could have been, maybe you were going through something, or, just you felt overwhelmed, or, you just had a baby, whether postpartum or like certain things where it's like they're I don't want to say talking you off a ledge, but it's like
Right.
they're just,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like there's
Yes.
reasons behind it. There's some great dream books out there that can also help. But dreams, people always think like black is like so horrible. Like people think black is evil. Black to me is grounding. Black is not evil. When you dream black, it's like they're telling you you need to be grounded. It's like dirt. Dirt is so dark. Um, I don't experience like anything bad. I always think there's something positive because you might talk to somebody who, listen, I remember being in one of these groups. I literally, honestly, I felt so bad because I was like, I burst out laughing because these dragon things. And I was just like, there's some quacks out there. I'm sorry, but there's literally some quacks out there, right? And it's like sometimes it's just like it blows my mind. I'm just like, I gotta stay in my own little bubble here because I don't want to, but there's always a reason behind it. And it's never, don't ever feel that it's negative, like it's bad luck, or like when people say like black cats or a black crow, or and I have crows everywhere around here. It doesn't mean they're just looking for some meat on the some road death or something from an animal, right? But it's don't ever feel the dreams are, it's whatever you're going through. But get a good dream book because that it can help. You
I
don't even
have
need
some,
a
yeah.
dream book. You can even Google, right?
Of course. Yeah, for sure.
But people seem to Google until they hear what they want to hear.
Of course. That makes sense. Yes.
And sometimes you just got to just find a reputable site.
Just looking at your career, you've been doing this for 15 years.
Mm.
More, I think now, right?
Longer now,
Maybe
yeah.
16 or 17 years. What is one of the key existential messages that come across to you? Do you find that you're getting a lot of messages that are similar from the other side? Like, is there any kind of theme that you could share with us?
So, sometimes I'll be like, why do I feel like I'm repetitive? But that's my dictionary. That's how I translate, right? That's
So what's the most popular word in your
in
dictionary?
my dictionary. Um, I find a lot of it is from fathers on the other side. Um, because I always look at it because fathers back, it's parenting nowadays is so different than what it used to be. And I always find that a lot of the message that comes through is because they need a son to know that, just because they weren't that type of person to express themselves. And they were a hard worker. So a lot of people showed like working was their way of showing love, providing for the family. They didn't know any different. And it's a generational thing. Every year is a every generation, and we only know what we're taught, right? So I always feel like it's like a proudness, and I can tell it always hits home because there's always like a breakdown, like some tears, and then it's just like I sometimes, because men are different, like, and then I kind of just like freeze. But I think the message is, a lot of times people won't even tell me. They'll be like, I get it. And I'm like, okay, as long as you understand. Sometimes people are very private. And spirit is private. And they'll just say certain things to where I won't have a clue what they're talking about, but this person knows exactly what they're talking about. And I remember telling somebody about a letter in a drawer, and they ended up finding the letter in the drawer. And it was something that changed their life forever. With somebody who had taken their own life, had left a letter, and they ended up finding the letter. And it's just because with children, moms, like I can never look at somebody and say, I know how you feel, because I don't.
Yes.
And you don't, like, we all grieve in our own way. And I don't like when people tell them, move on, get over it. There's no time limit to grief. I always say, Kim, I always say, you know what? There is, there's the only way to deal with grief is to grieve, right? And there's no time limit. Just do what is best for you. And people just need to like stay quiet if they have nothing else to say. You cannot, we never get over it. We learn to live with it. We learn to live with it. And with today, what's going on out, there's so many different things out there in the world. It's just, I feel like I make this world a better place. I really do, with helping people, because it's like, it's just, it affects everybody. Like it affects, like I go from doing, like I did a session in New York, and then from New York, that session went to California. From California, that session went to South Africa. From South Africa, like to it's a world effect, a ripple effect, and it's just so amazing. But with people wanting to learn, it's a matter of just having confidence, sitting there, asking direct, like, be specific, ask for a specific message. I had a woman, she's like, yep, she's like, I'm going to ask for a specific message. And she had asked, and she asked for a red ribbon. And she's like, there was no way where she was, there was going to be a red ribbon. And she was like walking up and down the street and that. And then she saw an art gallery. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to go walk into the art gallery. So as she walked in, they tied a red ribbon around her finger to show that she had paid to get into this art gallery. Okay. Like it's just like little things like that. So it's very interesting. Um, Listening to songs on the radio at Christmas time. I was driving and talking about personalized license plates. I heard, grandma got run over by a reindeer. My mom and I and my son used to laugh at that song at Christmas time, and it came on the radio. And it's like, oh, mom, I said like Merry Christmas and that. And I was stopped at a red light. As the light turned green, the car in front of me drove off, and the license plate said MRYXMAS. Who has a license plate that says Merry Christmas? Come on, like really, like.
Amazing.
You can't make this stuff up.
Yes. You're obviously an incredibly giving person.
Oh, always.
You give of yourself in a very profound way, I think. One of the things that struck me about what you've recently written is you were writing about reciprocity. And one of the things you said is stop pouring energy into barren soil. I think that that's really important as we come to an end of the interview,
Mm,
as a lot of people who are attracted to the work that I'm doing tend to do that. They tend to pour and pour and pour until there's nothing left.
yes.
Talk to me a little bit about reciprocity, and just it's almost like a warning that you gave with that post.
Yeah, because it's, you know, you have to get something out of everything. And my husband actually taught me this because he's like, I felt like I was draining. I felt like I was on empty, constantly giving, giving, giving. And and I just said, why do I feel used? Or why do I feel like everybody just wants something from me? And he's like, you're looking at it the wrong way. He's like, you have to look at it like when you do something for somebody, how does it make you feel? I'm like, oh my God, it makes me feel amazing. He goes, whether or not they give you something, that's what you're getting out of it. And he's like, in your mindset, like try and really like focus on that. But there's some energy vampires out there. And you get on the phone or you have a conversation with somebody and you listen, they feel great. But holy Christ, you're walking around limping like you need to go for a nap. And it's like I say, you have to start telling little white lies sometimes. Like, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but family can be the worst. and family, and it's not, there's nothing we can do about it. But like, because we're always available, and because nowadays a lot of us work from home, people think we have all this time available and they could just call and show up and just always be there. You have to set boundaries. You have to set energy boundaries. You have to set, if it, they have to pour into your cup as much as you need it. Like, what about you? What about me? Like, you're not going to be able to, I can't keep doing what I'm doing if I don't take care of myself. If I don't put myself first, I can't take care of my husband, my son, my granddaughter, my daughter-in-law. It's horrible. And sometimes people, you have to really sometimes you just have to cut the cord. We have that energy cord. I love talking about cord cutting, but you know what? Like coming to the end of this, you just need to cut that energy cord. And sometimes people, you have to get something out of it, Kim. Okay. You really do. And if it's just that moment of feeling really good, that's what you're getting out of it. Because even though it sucks me dry, it's just the way I am. And I don't think I'm ever going to stop. So it's like I have to just ignore calls and just, and sometimes I forget. It's like, can I call you back? And then it'll be like 4 days later. And I'm like, really sorry. And it's like, I respect everybody's time and that, but it's like, you have to really, you have to take care of you because you
Yeah.
won't be able to help that person. And sometimes it's like, they don't even care. It's like, it's like, they got what they wanted, move
It's
on.
transactional, right? Sometimes.
Yeah, there has to be something. There has to be something. And like I said, and with you with your empathy podcast, you are making this world like a better place. And it's a ripple effect because every podcast that you do goes to the audience and they leave and they talk about it. And you just planting a seed or whatever it is that's helping them. And it just keeps going on and on and on. And it's just those little things that in today's world, and we really, really, really need it. And people are so scared nowadays to do anything or say anything. And me, I'm just like, I would never ever disrespect or anybody, but I get emails horrible, horrible emails. I'm the devil's child and I do that. Like I get like and posts and stuff like that. It's like, I get called Karen. I'm just like, excuse me, no, it's Sherry. Like, like like get off my page.
Mhm.
Like,
Yes.
and that's
Yes.
another thing. Always remember, I like to say this as well. Always remember there's a human being on the other side of that screen, okay? And I don't care if you're Kim Kardashian, I don't care who you are. You read those. And it's a horrible thing. So just be kind. Just because you live a bitter life or whatever, don't put that shit on us. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're here to make your life better. And if you give me a chance, I will. So don't, before you jump on me, and I'm sure with you with the empathy podcast and you're going to lose people probably as well that are going to look and go, she's gone crazy or she's gone, and those aren't your people.
Right.
They were here for a
Exactly.
certain time to teach you some stuff. And what did they teach you was you don't want them in your life. Plain and simple. Get rid of them.
Sherry, I think that's amazing advice. I have one final question for you.
Mhm.
Do you have empathy for yourself?
Well, I think I need to give myself more pats on the shoulder. I think I need to hug myself more. Um, I do have empathy for myself, but sometimes I put other people first, and sometimes I need to there's a video like that I listened to, and it's got some swear words and stuff in it, but it's just like I'm sure you've heard one of those like good morning bitches, and it's like put on your crown and da 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 da. Like sometimes I just need that little reminder every so often. But no, you know what? Like I said, I live a really good life, and I feel that's my payback. We're all healthy, we're all um we're just really good, and I that's my payback. Just watching over everybody that I love and care for, and the only thing I would ask from people is like, let's, unite and be together, and we all bleed the same color blood, and that's it. But I really feel like, yeah, I do give myself empathy. I don't do without. And to me it just might be, running into Winners and buy myself a top or whatever makes you feel good. And that's another thing. Like I've always been about wellness. And to me, when somebody asks me what is wellness, wellness is anything that makes you feel good. It could be the walk, it could be a mediumship reading, it could be just speaking to you, coaching or whatever. But like I said, I know you have to cut me off, but I have, like I said, I
I got to
talked.
cut the cord.
Yeah, you got to cut the cord. But you've given me some energy today.
You've given me a lot of energy too. I'm so grateful for the conversation. I know how busy you are, and I just appreciate you always making time for me. And
Always.
I think
Um,
this is going to be so valuable to so many people. How do people find you, Sherry?
They can find me on Instagram, Sherry Gallant Official, Facebook, sherrygallant.com. Just Google Sherry Gallant and a bunch of stuff will come up. I'm pretty easy to find. I do have some shows coming up. In September, I'm in Kitchener. I think that one might be sold out, but in Thornhill, I think tickets go on sale on Monday for City Playhouse Theater in Thornhill in November. So that's all on the website. Everything's on the website. And thank you, Kim, for having me. And have a beautiful day. And don't let
Sherry.
those energy vampires suck any more energy out of you.
Bye. See you soon.
Bye. Take
Bye.
care.
You too.